Hello everyone, let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly touched your partner, not out of habit, not out of duty, but with presence, with intention? When was the last time your hand lingered on their skin in a way that said, I see you, I desire you, I'm still here with you? So often, in the quiet rhythm of marriage, touch begins to fade without us even noticing. At first it's subtle. The kiss at the door becomes a nod. The embrace after work becomes a quick brush of shoulders. Nights that once felt alive with warmth turn into two bodies scrolling on separate screens. Backs turned, hearts further apart, and slowly physical touch, the very thing that once pulled you together, starts slipping away until one day you realize you are married, but you are lonely. Touch is not just physical, it's emotional oxygen. It communicates what words cannot. It tells your partner they are wanted, valued, safe, and loved. And when it disappears, marriages don't just lose intimacy, they lose vitality. Today, we're going to open that door together. We're going to look honestly at why physical touch is disappearing in so many marriages, what it really means when it does, and how you can begin to bring it back, not through grand gestures, but through simple, powerful acts that reconnect your body, your heart, and your love. I want you to take a moment and think back to the early days of your relationship. Do you remember how natural it felt to reach out and touch your partner? The way your fingers intertwined without hesitation? The way your hand rested on their back as if it had always belonged there. The way every touch carried an electric charge, as if you were discovering each other for the first time. Back then, touch was effortless. You didn't think about it, you didn't plan for it, you lived in it. And in those small gestures, holding hands, brushing hair behind the ear, pulling each other closer, you built intimacy, trust, and desire. But for many couples, something begins to shift over time. Life enters with its obligations, work deadlines, bills, children, aging parents, responsibilities that stretch you thin. Slowly, those gestures of affection shrink, not because you don't love your partner anymore, but because love now shares space with exhaustion, with routine, with the quiet weight of everyday survival. You tell yourself that it doesn't matter, that you are still committed, still loyal, still present in the ways that count. And yet, without noticing, you stop reaching for each other. You stop offering that soft squeeze of reassurance, that gentle kiss on the forehead, that warm hand on the thigh in the middle of a conversation. Touch slips away, and what was once your language of connection becomes silence. Why does this matter? Because touch is not a luxury. It is not something extra that you add to the relationship when time allows. Touch is fundamental to how we bond as humans. From the moment we are born, we seek it. A baby who is held feels safe. A child whose tears are wiped away feels soothed. An adult whose hand is taken in a moment of fear feels steady again. Touch regulates our nervous systems. It reduces stress. It builds trust. And in a marriage, it is the most powerful reminder that you are not alone here. I am with you. When physical touch begins to disappear in a marriage, the consequences are subtle but profound. Partners may begin to feel rejected, though no one has spoken of rejection. They may begin to feel unwanted, though desire is still present but unexpressed. They may begin to feel lonely even while sleeping in the same bed. And perhaps most dangerously, they may begin to believe that this absence of touch is simply the natural decline of long-term relationships, that passion fades, that intimacy weakens, that this is just what marriage becomes. But that is not the truth. What often disappears is not desire itself, but the intentionality of expressing it. The truth is, intimacy doesn't vanish because time passes. It vanishes because we stop nurturing it, stop tending to it, stop making it visible through our actions. And nothing makes intimacy more visible, more tangible than touch. Now let's look at why touch fades in the first place. One reason is the weight of routine. In the beginning, every touch is a discovery, a small adventure. But once you have held each other 1,000 times, kissed each other 1,000 times, it is easy to believe there is nothing new to explore. You no longer marvel at the warmth of their skin because it has become familiar. And yet familiarity is deceptive. Just because something is known does not mean it has lost its depth. The touch of your partner is never the same twice, because neither of you is the same person you were yesterday. But routine makes us blind to this. Routine teaches us to go on autopilot, to assume rather than notice, to repeat rather than reinvent. Another reason touch fades is the subtle layering of resentment and unspoken conflict. Perhaps you felt unheard in a conversation or unsupported during a difficult moment. Perhaps you carry quiet disappointments that were never addressed. When this happens, the body often speaks before the mouth does. You find yourself pulling away ever so slightly, not reaching out when you normally would. Your hand hesitates, your lips remain still. The body keeps score, and it expresses what words often avoid. And so the absence of touch becomes a quiet protest, a signal of hurt, or a way of protecting yourself from further disappointment. And then there is the influence of technology. Couples lie in bed, each illuminated by the glow of a separate screen. The phone becomes the evening companion, the tablet the late night distraction. We touch glass more than we touch each other. We scroll instead of holding hands. We text instead of leaning in. We send emojis instead of tracing fingertips. Technology is not the enemy, but when it replaces physical presence, it begins to erode intimacy in ways we barely register. register. So what can be done? The first step is to become aware of the absence. Many couples are not even conscious that touch has diminished until someone points it out. They think we still love each other, we're fine. But love without touch becomes abstract, and what we long for is to feel love, not just know it exists. So ask yourself honestly, how often do you touch your partner in a way that is not functional, not sexual, but simply connective? Not pass me the keys or good night, but I see you, I cherish you, I'm here. The second step is to bring back small intentional gestures. These are not grand romantic acts, but simple habits of connection. When you greet each other at the end of the day, don't just say hello. Pause, hold them, let your body speak before your words do. When you pass by them in the kitchen, place a hand on their back. When you sit together, let your legs touch, your shoulders brush. These tiny acts may feel insignificant, but they are the quiet stitches that mend the fabric of intimacy. And here's the beautiful thing, touch does not only express connection, it creates it. Even if you don't feel desire in the moment, reaching out for your partner can awaken it. Desire is not always spontaneous. Often it is responsive. When your partner feels your hand on theirs, they don't just register the touch, they register that they are seen, remembered, desired. And that sparks warmth not only in the body but in the heart. So, if you have felt the absence of touch in your marriage, know this, it is not too late. Intimacy is not something you either have or don't have. It is something you can cultivate, revive, and renew at any stage. The simple act of reaching out can begin to shift the entire atmosphere of a relationship. And that is where we begin, by noticing the absence, by understanding why it happens, and by taking the first small steps to reintroduce touch as a daily language of love. When I speak to couples, I often notice how men, in particular, describe their relationship with touch in very different terms than women do. For many men, touch in marriage gradually becomes tied to performance, to expectation, to the question of whether or not it will lead to sex. And once touch becomes associated only with sexual initiation, many women begin to avoid it, fearing that a simple caress will carry the weight of obligation. This cycle quietly builds distance. One partner feels deprived of affection, while the other feels pressured or misunderstood. And before long, what was once a natural expression of closeness now becomes a negotiation, a calculation, even a source of tension. But touch was never meant to be transactional. Touch is nourishment. When your partner places a hand on your shoulder, they are not just preparing you for intimacy in the bedroom. They are saying, you exist for me. I want to feel you near. In marriages where touch begins to vanish, it is often because touch has lost its broader meaning. It has become a tool rather than a language, a step towards something else rather than something valuable in itself. This is where men especially need to shift perspective. Many men grow up in cultures where touch is not freely expressed. A man may shake hands firmly, clap a friend on the back, perhaps embrace during moments of celebration, but rarely is he encouraged to give or receive touch as a form of comfort, reassurance, or tenderness. Women, on the other hand, often grow up in environments where touch is part of daily life, friends holding hands, hugs of comfort, affection between sisters or mothers and daughters. So when a man enters a relationship, he may unconsciously equate touch with sexual intent because that is the only context where it has been normalized for him. And over time, his partner begins to feel the absence of touch that is simply affectionate, without an agenda. Think about it. How often do you touch your spouse when you are not asking for something, when you are not signaling sex, when you are not distracted? How often do you touch them simply because you want to? This kind of touch, casual, non-demanding, tender, is the soil in which desire grows. Desire thrives not in pressure but in playfulness. It needs space to breathe, to wander, to surprise. Now let's talk about another reason touch fades in marriage: the way stress changes our bodies. When we live under constant pressure, our nervous systems adapt. Our muscles tighten, our breath shortens, our energy collapses inward. In this state, reaching out to another person can feel like one more demand on an already depleted body. You think, I'm too tired to cuddle, I'm too drained to initiate. And so in protecting your energy, you also withhold connection. The irony is that the very thing you avoid, touch, is often what could restore your energy, what could soothe your nervous system, what could remind you that you are not carrying life alone. Stress also creates a hierarchy of priorities. Work comes first, then the children, then the household, then maybe the marriage. And within the marriage, emotional and physical intimacy often drop to the bottom of the list. But a marriage is not maintained only by logistics. It is nourished by gestures of closeness. Without them, partners become excellent poor managers of life, but poor lovers, poor companions. You can run a household together efficiently and still feel starved of affection. And here lies one of the greatest misunderstandings about physical touch in long-term relationships. People assume it should be spontaneous, that if it is genuine, it will happen naturally. But here is the truth. It rarely does, not because the love is gone, but because the environment of modern life does not support it. Touch has to be chosen, invited, cultivated. It must become intentional. Think of it as watering a plant. You don't wait for the rain to come. You take the jug, you pour the water, and you create the conditions for life to grow. So, how do we make touch intentional without making it mechanical? It begins with mindfulness. When you pass by your partner, notice them. Slow down enough to let your hand brush against theirs. When you say goodbye in the morning, don't just wave from the door. Pause, kiss them, let it last 3 seconds longer than usual. That extra 3 seconds may feel small, but it sends a message. I still choose you, even in the rush of life. I will not let our connection be swallowed by speed. Another way is to reclaim rituals of touch. Rituals are powerful because they anchor intimacy in daily life. For example, many couples find strength in the ritual of holding hands during evening walks, or sitting close together with a hand resting on the other's knee while watching television. These rituals do not need to be dramatic, they only need to be consistent. Over time, they become a safe harbor, a reminder that no matter what storms rage outside, there is a place of warmth between you. And here's something important: touch must also evolve with the seasons of a relationship. What felt natural in your 20s may not feel the same in your 40s or 50s. Bodies change, rhythms change, energy changes, but this is not a decline, it is an invitation to explore new ways of being close. Perhaps the passionate make-out sessions of youth give way to slower, more tender caresses. Perhaps playfulness emerges in new forms, tickling toes under the sheets, running fingers through hair, gentle massages after long days. Intimacy is not static, it is a dance. And each stage of life offers new steps to discover. Let's also speak about the unspoken shame some men feel around touch. Many men carry the silent belief that if their partner is not responsive to sexual advances, it means they are undesirable, less masculine, less worthy. Out of fear of rejection, they stop initiating altogether. They retreat, not realizing that their withdrawal deepens the very distance they dread. What they don't realize is that a partner may not be rejecting them personally, but simply overwhelmed, tired, or longing for touch that is not immediately sexual. When a man learns to offer non-demanding touch, simply a stroke, a cuddle, a warm embrace, he creates space for his partner to feel safe, to relax, and eventually to open. Touch in this way becomes less about conquest and more about presence, less about performance and more about connection. And when you shift into this mindset, something beautiful happens. Intimacy starts to reappear in moments that once felt ordinary. The morning coffee together, the shared silence after a long day, the gentle brushing of your partner's hair. You begin to rediscover that marriage is not sustained by grand gestures, but by 1,000 small touches that say we are still here together. So, if you feel that physical touch has been disappearing in your marriage, do not despair. This is not a sign that love has died. It is a sign that love needs tending. And the good news is, you have the power to bring it back. One of the most beautiful truths about relationships is that intimacy can be rekindled, even after years of neglect. Desire is not something you either have or lose forever. It is something you can awaken, something you can breathe life back into, if you are willing to be curious again. And curiosity, my friends, is the lifeblood of touch. So many couples fall into the trap of believing they already know each other completely. You tell yourself, I've been with this person for 10, 20, 30 years. I know what they like, I know what they don't, there are no surprises left. But that assumption kills curiosity. It closes the door to exploration. And when curiosity disappears, so does the spark. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you explored your partner's body with the same attentiveness you once had? When was the last time you asked them what kind of touch they long for now? Not what they enjoyed 10 years ago, but what feels good in this season of life. Because here's the truth, people evolve. What felt exciting at 25 may feel different at 45. What once felt sensual may now feel comforting. And if you never ask, if you never approach your partner as someone still full of mystery, you will never discover the layers of intimacy waiting for you. This is why play is so essential. Play breaks routine. Play makes room for surprise. Play allows you to touch without pressure, to explore without a script, to rediscover your partner as someone who can still delight you. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be as simple as massaging each other's hands while talking, or tracing patterns on each other's skin while lying in bed. The key is to bring a sense of presence and openness, not just habit. Now, many couples ask me, but what if it feels awkward? What if it feels forced? And I tell them, of course it does. Anything you have neglected for a long time will feel strange at first. That is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of renewal. Think of it like exercise. The first time you return to the gym after months away, your body resists. It aches, it feels clumsy. But with practice, it becomes natural again. Touch works the same way. The more you reintroduce it, the more natural it becomes, until one day it no longer feels like effort but like home. Another important truth: intimacy requires safety. If resentment, anger, or betrayal are standing between you and your partner, then physical touch will feel like a contradiction, even a wound. You cannot reach for your partner's hand if you are still carrying unspoken blame in your heart. You cannot truly kiss them if you are holding your breath against words left unsaid. Sometimes, before touch can be restored, the air must be cleared, conversations must happen, vulnerabilities must be shared, apologies may need to be spoken. Only then does touch feel authentic rather than forced. But once that foundation of safety is laid, touch becomes transformative. Science shows us that something as simple as holding hands lowers blood pressure, reduces stress hormones, even strengthens the immune system. But beyond the science, what matters is the message it sends. I am with you. I choose you. We are still us. And let's not forget the sensual dimension of touch. Many couples, especially after years together, stop treating each other as lovers and start treating each other only as partners, co-parents or teammates. And while partnership is important, the erotic dimension is what keeps a marriage alive. Erotic touch is not always about sex. It is about awakening aliveness in the body. It can be a kiss that lingers just a little longer than usual, a playful graze on the neck while cooking dinner, a whispered word that carries heat. These small sparks remind your partner that desire still lives between you, that you still see them as more than the person who shares your bills and routines. But here is the paradox. Eroticism does not thrive in duty. It thrives in freedom. If touch always leads predictably to the same outcome, it becomes monotonous. Desire is fed by unpredictability, by the feeling that something could happen, not that it must happen. So if you want to bring back physical touch in your marriage, let go of the idea that every caress must end in sex. Touch each other simply because it feels good to connect. Desire grows when there is space for it to surprise you. And what about aging? Many couples fear that physical touch will inevitably fade as they grow older, that it is the privilege of youth. But that is another myth. I have seen couples in their 70s, 80s, even 90s, who still hold hands every morning, who still stroke each other's cheeks, who still giggle in bed like teenagers. Touch does not belong to the young. Touch belongs to the willing. Your body may change, your energy may shift, but your capacity for tenderness, for playfulness, for sensuality never has to disappear. So what do I want you to take away from this? That physical touch is not disappearing in your marriage because time has passed or because passion inevitably fades. It disappears because we stop being intentional, we stop being curious, we stop being playful, but we can always choose to begin again. Tonight, when you go to bed, instead of turning to your phone, turn to your partner, place your hand on theirs, no agenda, no pressure, just presence, just connection, and see what happens. Because in the end, marriage is not sustained by words alone. It is sustained by the language of the body, by the warmth of skin on skin, by the gestures that whisper what words cannot say. And when you bring touch back into your marriage, you don't just revive intimacy, you revive love itself. So, remember this, your marriage does not have to grow cold. It does not have to settle into silence. You have within you the ability to reignite warmth, to reawaken desire, to make your partner feel chosen, desired, and cherished again and again, no matter how many years have passed. I once worked with a couple who had been married for 23 years. They came to me saying, "We love each other, but we feel like roommates." When I asked about touch, they looked at each other awkwardly, almost embarrassed. The husband admitted that the only time he reached for his wife was when he wanted sex, and she confessed that she often pulled away, not because she didn't love him, but because she longed for touch that wasn't tied to expectation. What they didn't realize is that both of them were hungry for the same thing, to feel close again. They just didn't know how to bridge the gap. So we began with something simple, a 10-second kiss every morning and every evening. Not a distracted peck, not a quick brush of lips, but a real kiss. 10 seconds may not sound like much, but when you are used to quick goodbyes, 10 seconds feels like an eternity. At first, it felt awkward. They laughed nervously. But as days passed, those kisses began to change. They stopped feeling like a ritual and started feeling like a reconnection. They reminded the couple that they were not just partners managing a household. They were lovers. Within weeks, they both reported feeling more warmth, more playfulness, and more desire. This is the power of intentional practice. You do not wait for touch to magically reappear. You create the space for it. So here is one exercise you can try every day. Commit to 3 moments of touch with no agenda. It could be holding hands while walking, brushing their hair off their face, or sitting close on the couch with your legs touching. The rule is simple. It does not have to lead anywhere. It exists purely as a gesture of presence. When couples do this consistently, something shifts. The body begins to remember what the heart has been missing. Another practice is what I call the silent embrace. Stand facing each other, close enough that you can feel the rhythm of the other's breath. Wrap your arms around each other and hold. Do not speak, do not move. Just hold. At first it might feel unusual, even uncomfortable, but if you stay with it, you will begin to feel your body soften, your breathing sink, your heart steady. This is not just an embrace, it is a recalibration of intimacy. Many couples find that even 2 minutes of this silent embrace brings them back into alignment in ways that hours of conversation cannot. Rituals like these work because they anchor intimacy in daily life. Think of them as touchstones, moments where you pause, reconnect, and remind each other of your bond. Some couples hold hands during grace before meals. Others always hug before leaving the house. Some end every night with a foot rub or a gentle back scratch. The specifics don't matter. What matters is consistency. These rituals become the invisible threads that weave closeness into the fabric of ordinary days. Let me share another story. A woman once told me that she and her husband had stopped touching altogether, not out of anger but out of habit. They went to bed each night on separate sides, scrolling on their phones until they fell asleep. When I suggested they leave the phones outside the bedroom and commit to at least 5 minutes of cuddling before sleep, they laughed. "We're not teenagers," they said, but they agreed to try. Weeks later, they came back glowing. Those 5 minutes had become their favorite part of the day. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they didn't. Sometimes it led to intimacy, sometimes it didn't. But always, it reminded them that their bodies still knew how to speak the language of love. And here's the secret: when you bring back touch, you bring back play. You bring back a sense of lightness that so many marriages lose under the weight of responsibilities. Think of the way children play, without agenda, without overthinking, simply for the joy of being together. That is what touch can restore in a marriage: the joy of being near, the delight of connection without pressure. Practical integration also means looking for small, everyday opportunities. When you cook together, let your hands overlap as you pass the spoon. When you're watching television, lean your head on their shoulder. When you walk through the door, pause to greet each other with real presence rather than distracted words. It may sound small, but intimacy is not built in grand gestures. It is built in moments. For men especially, this requires unlearning the idea that touch must always be purposeful. Many men were raised to see touch as a tool either to initiate intimacy or to perform strength. But in marriage, touch is not a tool, it is a gift. It is not something you give only when you want something back. It is something you offer because it nurtures both of you. When a man learns to touch simply for the sake of connection, he often discovers that his partner becomes more receptive to deeper intimacy, precisely because the pressure has been lifted. And for women, it often requires opening to the possibility that their partner may not know how to express touch in ways they crave. Sometimes you have to teach each other. You have to say, "I love it when you hold me this way," or "It feels good when you touch me gently here." Communication about touch is not unromantic, it is essential. Desire grows when partners feel safe to express what they want and to hear what the other longs for. The truth is, touch is a practice, and like any practice, it deepens with attention. You don't have to wait for vacations or anniversaries to bring intimacy back. You can start today, in the middle of ordinary life, in the kitchen, on the couch, in the car. Each small act of touch becomes a reminder that your marriage is alive, that your love is still breathing, still reaching, still capable of tenderness. So I encourage you, choose one ritual today. Maybe it's a 10-second kiss. Maybe it's holding hands on your evening walk. Maybe it's a silent embrace before bed. Do it every day for a week, then 2 weeks, then a month. Watch how the distance softens. Watch how your partner's eyes begin to light up again when you reach for them. Watch how your own heart feels less heavy, more connected, more alive. Because in the end, marriage is not about never losing touch. It's about choosing to return to it again and again. There's something profoundly human about the way our bodies crave touch. From the first breath we take, we are soothed, comforted, and affirmed through the contact of another. And yet, somewhere along the way, many marriages forget this truth. The years pass, the routines pile up, and the very thing that once felt so natural, holding each other, caressing, kissing without hurry, becomes rare, not because the love is gone, but because the rhythm of life makes us forget to express it. But I want you to hear this clearly. Love is not measured in how many years you have been together. Love is measured in how you show up for each other. Today, in this moment, with this touch. Every day you have a choice. You can let distance grow quietly, or you can decide, no, not in my marriage. Not with my partner. I will reach for them. I will remind them that they matter to me, not just in words, but in the language of touch. Because here's the truth, your partner is still longing for it. Even if they don't say it, even if they seem distracted, even if the years have dulled the habit, your partner's body still remembers what it feels like to be wanted, to be held, to be cherished. And when you touch them with intention, you awaken that memory. You breathe life back into the connection that may have been quietly fading. Think about what happens when two hands meet after years of distance. At first, it may feel simple, ordinary, even small. But the body knows. The body exhales, the shoulders soften, the heart opens. It says, finally, I am not alone here. I am seen. I am held. That is the power you hold in your hands. Literally. I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine coming home at the end of the day. Instead of dropping your keys and heading straight to your phone or the television, you pause. You walk over to your partner. You put your arms around them, not distractedly, not as an afterthought, but fully with presence. And for just a moment, you let the world fall away. You feel their heartbeat against yours, the warmth of their skin, the steadiness of their breath. That moment costs nothing, but it gives everything. It tells your partner, this is still a marriage. We are still lovers. We are still us. And what happens when you practice this every day? You begin to see your partner differently. You stop looking at them only through the lens of responsibility, of bills and chores and parenting. You start seeing them again as the person who once made your heart race, the person you chose, the person who still carries mystery and beauty and depth within them. Touch awakens not just the body, it awakens the way you see each other. Yes, there will be times when it feels awkward, times when you are tired, times when you wonder if it even matters. But every great love story is written not in grand declarations, but in small, consistent acts of care, and touch is one of the most powerful acts you can offer. It is the reassurance after an argument, the comfort during a storm, the playfulness in the middle of routine, the passion that keeps desire alive. So, what does this mean for you right now? It means you do not have to wait for a special occasion to begin again. You do not have to wait for your partner to take the first step. You can choose tonight to reach out, to take their hand during dinner, to kiss them longer than usual, to cuddle for 5 minutes before sleep, to run your fingers along their arm, just to say, I remember, I still want you. And here's what's even more beautiful. When you touch your partner, you also heal yourself. Touch lowers stress, eases tension, and creates a sense of belonging. It reminds you that you are connected, that you are not carrying life alone. It is a gift you give to them, but also a gift you give to yourself. In the end, the disappearance of physical touch in marriage is not inevitable. It is a choice, sometimes unconscious, sometimes unspoken, but always reversible. You can restore it. You can nurture it. You can make your marriage a place where love is not only spoken but felt daily, in the simple act of reaching out. So I want to leave you with this. Love is not just about staying together. Love is about staying connected. And connection lives in the small gestures, the kiss, the embrace, the brush of a hand, the playful squeeze, the warmth of bodies close. Do not underestimate the power of these moments. They are not small. They are the very heartbeat of intimacy. Tonight, when the lights are off and the world is quiet, I want you to do something simple. Turn to your partner, hold them, not because you want something, not because it's expected, but because you choose them. And in that touch, you will find what so many couples forget, that love is not something that fades with time. Love is something you create again and again with every gesture, every embrace, every touch. And if you carry that with you, not just tonight, not just tomorrow, but every day, you will discover that physical touch does not disappear in marriage. It deepens, it transforms. It becomes the language that holds you both, even as the years go by. So here's to you, to your love, to your marriage. May your touch always remind each other of what words sometimes forget. I see you. I choose you. I desire you. I love you.